The Politics podcast is brought to you, as always, by TakePoliticsSeriously.com. New URL, same Patreon. If you've already supported us, then it's going to go to the same place. We have now separated my jury podcasts and my politics podcasts. So if you are already supporting the Patreon for this show, don't worry, nothing has changed. If you already have your PX3 extras, you don't have to change your URL, anything. Nothing needs to change, except you will notice that you will not be getting any of the jury stuff in there because, let's be honest, you're here for the politics. So we have made it better for that and opened up a little real estate where we can now do more politics stuff on that Patreon. So I'm very, very excited about that. If you have never taken advantage of our $3 level, that is $3 a week, where you get 2 extra bonus podcasts per week, Monday and Friday. And by the way, they've been pretty good lately because a lot of news has broken on Mondays and Fridays. Then you can head on over to TakePoliticsSeriously.com. Also, our free political newsletter. Oh, it feels like yesterday that we started it, but we are already up around 1,000 of you guys that have supported it. That is fucking amazing. Go ahead and put us over the top. Go to freepoliticalnewsletter.com. And also, I've moved it to MailChimp, which allows me to do some other cooler stuff up to and including the weird political video of the day. And today's, you want to know what? We're going to play it on the show just to give you a little taste-a-roo. freepoliticalnewsletter.com. Go check it out. Enough talking about how we support the show. What do you say we just do the damn thing?
Politics, 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 politics. Politics, yes. Come on, come on, come on.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, JustinRobertYoung.tv proudly brings to you the undisputed #1 political podcast in my spare room. The Politics Show. My name is Justin Robert Young. I'm going to be your host for this madcap hour of political recap, and holy shit, do we have a lot to talk about. Man, we have this Trump Cohen tape that leaked to CNN last night. We are going to play that in exquisite detail. We are going to talk about how some West Virginia people just cannot take a hint. Don Blankenship is going to run as a third-party candidate. We will get into the weird video that I teased earlier today, and we will talk about the culture war. Folks, we have begun executing hostages on either side of the culture war. We will get into that in a second as well. And you want to know what? We're going to start with this right now. Folks, this is one of these crazy ads that we brought to you fairly early in the process. We've been on this one for a little bit. Let me ask if you remember Brian Kemp and this ad that announced him on the national scene.
I'm Brian Kemp. This is Jake, young man interested in one of my daughters.
Yes, sir.
Jake asked why I was running for governor. I said, 1,
Cap government spending.
2,
Take a chainsaw to regulations.
3,
Make Georgia #1 for small business.
and 2 things if you're gonna date one of my daughters.
Respect.
And
A healthy appreciation for the Second Amendment. Sir.
we're gonna get along just fine.
That click you've heard, if you are only listening on audio and have not seen this video before, is conservative businessman Brian Kemp clicking his shotgun together in a way that makes it look like he's pointing it at young Jake. Jake has appeared in other ads as kind of a relatable foil to Mr. Kemp, who, as of last night, is officially the Republican nominee for the governor of Georgia. He defeats Casey Cagle for that distinction, and we now have our head-to-head matchup. And I'll tell you what, this is going to be something that we will talk about Labor Day when we are in Atlanta, Georgia for Dragon Con, because we have a live politics at Dragon Con this year. We're going to be talking about Kemp. We're going to be talking about Adams. She could be the first. Abrams, not Adams. Stacey Abrams. There's a song called Stacey Adams. I get it mixed up. Stacey Abrams, who could be the first black woman governor of Georgia. She matches up against the politically incorrect conservative in Brian Kemp. And we wonder now, will Jake smash? Hashtag let Jake smash. He's been very nice. You've pointed a gun at him. Can we please let Jake smash? Finally, the real issues talked about in Georgia. Well, listen, this is going to be wild. But while we are talking about live shows, let's go ahead and turn our attention to the Wave Watch. We got a lot of wave news. This is a story from The Hill earlier this week. Top analyst Larry Sabato, for the first time, has made the Democrats the favorite to take the House in midterm elections. Kyle Kondik, managing editor of Sabato's Crystal Ball at the university's Center for Politics, said Tuesday the Democrats are now soft favorites for control of the chamber. For those of you who are not keeping track, that would indicate that
That's just the way.
is more likely that indeed the Republican majority in the House, at the very least,
And quietly gets swallowed by a wave.
yes, according to Sabato's Crystal Ball, the Democrats will be the beneficiary of
It gets swallowed by a wave.
Quote, for the most of this election style, the generic ballot has shown a consistent Democratic lead that suggests a very competitive battle for the majority. A high number of open seats, the highest number of any post-war election since 1992, give Democrats more targets than the GOP. This is a result of moving races from likely Republican to toss-up in the ratings. Another hurdle for the GOP in November, Kondik notes, is the fundraising gap between Democratic candidates and their GOP opponents, which is much greater than usual in 2018 thanks to months of strong Democratic fundraisers. Quote, Democratic fundraising was extraordinary, with dozens of Democratic candidates turning in blockbuster quarters and outraising their GOP opponents. Money isn't everything, but one expects incumbents to have a clear financial edge on their opponents. It's not clear that some of the GOP members will even that with several months of buck raking to go before the November 6th election. So that's good news for the Dems. If you are blue team, you are excited. And spoiler alert, a little later in this podcast, we are going to talk about some other good news for the Democrats. But let's leave it up to the wolf.
Well, let's not start sucking each other's dicks quite yet.
There is one thing that has not gone the Democrats' way. And it's a very, very big thing. Because despite the fact that Donald Trump, the president of the United States, I don't know if you guys have picked up on that, despite the fact that he is unpopular, he has not become toxic. This from the former whiz kid, Harry Enton of CNN, by the numbers, Trump-backed candidates are crushing it in GOP primaries. We will see whether or not this transfers to the general election. But as of right now, conservatives are not, Donald Trump has not become toxic. And that's something that you would hope, and in many wave elections, the people, the folks running at lower levels of office want the president to stay away. This happened during the Obamacare stuff. Obamacare was such a divisive issue that Democrats were like, just let me run on local stuff. Let me run on where the red light should go near the 7-Eleven. I don't want to make this a national thing because when I get national, my polls go down. So far, in these GOP primaries, you have not seen that with Donald Trump's involvement. Now, this is also a factor of Donald Trump jumping in to some of these very late. It's not like he stumps for them 3 months ahead of time. He does it very, very close to Election Day. So he can pick and choose whether or not he's going to lend his brand to a winner or a loser. You can assume that this is at least in part because he was very stung by the Alabama primary, where he backed Luther Strange and was bested by, well, the man who rode Sassy. Now, this is all interesting news. However, it is not as interesting as the news I am about to deliver to you right now. Because if you are in the San Francisco Bay Area, Oakland, SF, San Jose, Marin County, I'm talking to all y'all out there in Sacramento. Last time we had people come out from Cincinnati, from Seattle. They came to see a PX3 live show, and I am here to officially announce that we are back at the Piano Fight Theater November 6th. That is election night, the official Wave Watch recap. We are going to do a live show where we find out exactly whether or not Wave Watch came to any fruition. Will the Democrats take the House? Will the Democrats take the Senate? We will all find out. We will all find out at the Piano Fight Theater November 6th. Tickets will be on sale soon. All right. Let's go ahead and get into this this Trump-Cohen tape, because there was a big red flag that went up last night. The signal flare. Cuomo in primetime all of a sudden announced that the Trump-Cohen tape was leaked and they were going to play it. We will play it for you, or at least the part that matters, right now. If you have not heard it, here's the setup. Michael Cohen was Donald Trump's fixer, lawyer and fixer. That means that when Donald Trump has problems, Michael Cohen makes them go away. There was a problem as the election moved on. There were a couple women that had had affairs with President Trump that were now threatening to sell their stories. So, this was Michael Cohen's job to fix it. They used a Trump ally and friend, David Pecker of the American Media Institute? No, it's AMI. They own the National Enquirer. They bought the stories of both Stormy Daniels and Karen McDougal, the two women that were shopping their stories. This particular tape is apparently about Karen McDougal, but there is a bit of a discrepancy betwixt these two men. What do you say we go ahead and listen to the important part of this tape right now?
And I've spoken to Alan Weisselberg about how to set the whole thing up with
So what are we going to do?
funding. Yes. And it's all the stuff, because, you never know where that company, you never know where he's going to be.
Gets hit by a
Correct. So I'm all over that. And I spoke to Alan about it when it comes time for the financing, which will be.
Listen, what financing?
We'll have to pay you. So
Don't pay with cash.
No. I got no.
The Jury Daily. All right.
And I've spoken.
There we go. So here is the key. Cohen recorded this. These tapes have been turned over to the FBI. It was Cohen's lawyer that walked it on over to CNN, and it was him, the same lawyer that was on Cuomo's show, being very combative with not only the president, but also the president's chief counsel and television lawyer, Rudy Giuliani. It is, well, here, let's just go ahead and get to the important part.
And I spoke to Alan.
This is the important part of the tape here.
Alan about it when it comes time for the financing, which will be.
Listen, what financing?
Well,
All right, what financing? This is about, they're setting up a company so they can pay David Pecker. They then talk a little bit earlier in the tape about how they need to set up a company and they need to buy the information because if, heaven forbid, something happened to David Pecker, then all of a sudden that information could get out to somebody else. So that's why they have to pay for it. Donald Trump asks, what financing? And this is the key element.
I'll have to pay you. So
Don't pay with cash.
No. I got no.
All right. So Donald Trump says either pay with cash or don't pay with cash. Michael Cohen stammers a no. And then it sounds like Donald Trump says check. That's the end of the recording. When I say end of the recording, the next thing that happens is it clicks to another recording. So we don't know what happens after that. And Cohen's lawyer on CNN last night said that he doesn't know why there is nothing after that particular clip. This is at issue because whether or not Rudy Giuliani says that there was no payment, so it doesn't matter what they talked about. Cohen's lawyer makes the assumption, or makes the claim, that every Trump supporter needs to listen to this and understand that the man that they support is a snake. And the only people, this is his words verbatim, the only people that use cash are drug dealers and thugs. So the fact that Donald Trump, according to Michael Cohen's lawyer, suggested cash suggests that Donald Trump is a shady person. There's also the other element of whether or not this particularly violates campaign finance law. So one more time, let's go ahead and listen to that part of the conversation.
I'm all over that. And I spoke to Alan about it when it comes time for the financing, which will be.
Listen, what financing?
We'll have to pay you. So
Don't pay with cash.
No. I got no.
So let me say that I don't think this means shit. I really don't. Not now, at the very least. I don't. Just because it is so selectively edited. I don't think the tape means anything. I think the release of the tape does mean something. Because the release of the tape means that Michael Cohen is out here wilding. Michael Cohen, we had rumors of maybe Michael Cohen will flip. Remember, Michael Cohen's the same motherfucker that said he'd take a bullet for Trump. Now it sounds like he wants to put a bullet in Trump. He apparently has felt very cold-shouldered by the Trump campaign as he now possibly faces legal repercussions. And he is on the offensive. When you start leaking the tapes to CNN, you are on the offensive. You are here for blood. You are here to play for keeps. Now, again, I don't know whether, even if Donald Trump said cash, there's enough room in the inflection that I don't feel comfortable saying, oh, absolutely, he was saying, you better pay cash. Because it kind of just sounds like he could even be saying cash? Like he's asking him what the appropriate thing would be. Because then he immediately follows it up with, check? And then the tape cuts off. The key here is that Michael Cohen is leaking tapes to CNN. That's the headline. That's pretty much it. Michael Cohen has flipped. Michael Cohen will work hand in hand with the investigators. We can assume Michael Cohen will be leaking personally damaging information to against Donald Trump in the press. That's what we know. And as J.K. Grammer points out in our Twitch chat, he has more tapes. And he is willing to release more of them. That's your headline. I don't really think we can go fucking all goddamn day trying to debate whether or not it's Laurel or Yanny. But the real key here, again, is that somebody that had so much access to the dirty dealings of Trump, and I don't mean dirty dealings like if you're on the Trump train, if you're like, well, he's the cleanest motherfucker on the planet, he's anything that would be unsavory in business, Michael Cohen handled. That's interesting. That's important. Oh, like we mentioned earlier, some West Virginia people, man. Some West Virginia people. You just can't take the L to Cocaine Mitch. Don Blankenship. He was one of our favorite kooks. One of our favorite kooks in West Virginia. Coined the term West Virginia people because he was trying to cover up for the fact that he said China people. He is filing to run as a third-party Senate candidate in West Virginia. This from The Hill. Ex-Kohl's CEO Don Blankenship is preparing to run as a third-party candidate after losing his bid for the GOP nomination in what is likely to spark a fierce legal battle. Here's the reason why. In West Virginia, you have what is called a sore loser law. Sore loser law is that if exactly what happened to Don Blankenship happens, you can't just run as a third-party candidate. So the fierce legal battle is him trying to get around the sore loser law. This is Blankenship's campaign in a press release from Tuesday. Quote, Mr. Blankenship does not expect the filing to be certified and will vigorously challenge the denial through all legal means necessary. Mr. Blankenship fully expects to be on the ballot this November. Steve Allen Adams, the spokesperson for West Virginia Secretary of State Mark Warner, told The Hill after Blankenship first announced his plans that its secretary's views that Blankenship is barred from running as a third-party candidate. Quote, West Virginia does have a sore loser sour grapes law. We feel that this law is very clear. I'm just kind of curious. And by the way, this is for Joe Manchin's Senate seat. Joe Manchin is the most conservative Democrat in the Senate. If somebody like Joe Manchin were to lose, that would be fairly case closed on the Democrats' chances to take both the House and the Senate. Again, the House is far more likely than the Senate. The Democrats kind of have to run kind of a perfect game in the Senate to retake that. It is less likely. But if we have our eyes to the distant horizon for a wave watch, then you would have to wonder about things like this. It would not be indicative of a wave if Joe Manchin were to lose. But now you have to wonder, who does this benefit? Who does crazy-ass Don Blankenship, who we exclusively reported on this podcast, once asked his secretary to research alpacas? That was an exclusive. Must credit PX3. Who does crazy-ass Don Blankenship best benefit? Should those rules be a thing? I'm curious. I'm actually curious what y'all think about this, because I'm kind of two minds. Like, I kind of I like the fact that in America we have a lot of different playing fields. Every electoral situation has its own D&D dungeon layout. But on one hand, I kind of think, look, you should be able to run. Anything that can be affected by more people on the ballot should be affected by more people on the ballot. Seems kind of protectionist to me to have a sore losers, sour grapes law. But on the other hand, if you're Joe Manchin, you're like, run, Don, run. Come on. Joe Manchin right now is like, I don't know. I think free speech should reign. I mentioned earlier in the show that our free political newsletter is evolving. You can get it at freepoliticalnewsletter.com. One of the things that we are doing now that we moved to MailChimp, MailChimp has a great, easy way to embed links to videos. And so we're sucking up all the best, quirky, ridiculous videos. And we got to thinking in the Discord, which you can join for free, bit.ly/jurydiscord. Just go ahead and find the politics channels. They're super fun. I love to spend my time there. We got to thinking about Christine O'Donnell. Yes, Christine O'Donnell. How many of y'all right now in the Twitch chat know who the fuck I'm talking about when I say Christine O'Donnell? You got to think, man, it was 8 years ago that Christine O'Donnell ran. A lot of y'all people don't know. God, if any of y'all aren't on the free political newsletter, educate yourself. There was some good stuff. There was some good shit in there. If you don't know who she is, baby, welcome. All right. I bring you back to the halcyon days of 2010. Yes. Joe Biden, the longtime Delaware senator, had ascended to the White House, and there was now an empty seat. So, Christine O'Donnell challenged as part of the Tea Party movement. She secured the Republican nomination by insinuating that her opponent in her own party was having a gay affair. But it was once she secured that GOP nomination that she wound up, having some of her past come back to haunt her. Specifically the fact that she was a fairly regular guest on Politically Incorrect with Bill Maher. Bill Maher, of course, has his show on HBO now, and he began a campaign. He was going to run one clip of Christine O'Donnell every week until she came on the show. So this was the clip that really started it all.
I have 22 episodes. Christine, if you're watching, I created you. You need to come on this show. If you don't come on this show, I'm going to show a clip every week. I'm the only one who has them. I hoarded them. No, somebody had one. They showed it on the internet this week on YouTube of her on with Eddie Izzard when she's saying, you can never lie. And Eddie Izzard said, what if you were hiding Anne Frank in the attic and Hitler came to the door? And she said, nope, wouldn't lie. Let me show this clip. This is from Politically Incorrect. I don't know what year, like 1997 or something.
You were a witch.
I dabbled into witchcraft. I never joined a coven.
Wait a minute, you were a witch?
Yeah, she was a...
I was a witch.
I mean, wait a minute.
That's exactly why.
How are you to be a witch?
Because I dabbled into witchcraft. I hung around people who were doing these things.
Having fun?
I'm not making this stuff up. I know what they told me they do.
Well, what they do?
I mean, in one of my dates, my first date was...
Wait, I want to hear about this.
One of my first dates with a witch was on a satanic altar, and I didn't know it. And, I mean, there's little blood there and stuff like that.
That was a date?
Your first date was a
Yeah,
satanic
we went to
altar?
a movie and then, like, had a little midnight picnic.
Let's have a movie and a sacrifice?
Oh my God. Oh my God. Whatever. God, I love politics. It's the best. It's the fucking best. It's the best. I went on a date. Number one, this clip starts off so amazingly. I dabbled in witchcraft, but I never joined a coven. I dabbled in witchcraft, but I never joined a coven. In fact, one of my first dates, like, we got to just hear that again. One of my first dates was on a satanic ritual, and I didn't even realize it. Here we go.
Oh, wait, I want to hear about this.
One of my first dates with a witch was on a satanic altar, and I didn't know it. And, I mean, there's...
How fucking good is that? Oh, it was on a satanic altar and I didn't even know it. That clip wound up creating one of the best political ads of all time. This pretty much did old Christine in. She did not go much further than this. Ladies and gentlemen, I give to you the Christine O'Donnell political ad for her 2010 bid to be the Senator of Delaware. The name she gave the ad is I'm Not a Witch, I'm You.
I'm not a witch. I'm nothing you've heard. I'm you. None of us are perfect. But none of us can be happy with what we see all around us. Politicians who think spending, trading favors, and...
All right, I'm sorry, lady. I know that I'm here. Like, I think that we should be more open-minded. We should be more empathetic. But you can't just start a conversation. You can't start a conversation and be like, I eat live frogs. But let's move on to government spending. And also, who voted yes to the war in Iraq? Like, you can't get away if you lead with I'm not a witch. Like, you have to... You can't just lead with...
I'm not a witch.
Well, I mean, if you're going to point at it, like, you can't you can't just say, I mean, like, for a lot of people, they might not have heard that. Yes, it was big on cable news and maybe it was resonating with your voters, but how many people for the first time heard of this charge when you said,
I'm not a witch.
well, I mean, if you're gonna make a point about it, if you keep saying that you're not, then we gotta start thinking, how close did you come if you're like,
I'm not a witch.
I mean, cheese, lady. Cheese. Cheese Louise with cheese, man. That was it. She was toast. Christine O'Donnell. RIP 2010 in her quest. But, oh, God, I had such a good time watching that original video. That original video is amazing. That's the kind of shit that we got. And, man, our Discord got lit last night with amazing, awesome old videos and old political ads, old gaffes. If you want to contribute, just go ahead and write them in. theyoungamerican@gmail.com. Again, theyoungamerican@gmail.com. Here's a sad thing. I want to be serious about this one real quick. Because I have been upfront with everybody that I think that the culture war is just as much of a political story as anything else. And I've been talking about this story on every podcast that I do over the last 3 days. Talked about it on Jury Daily. Talked about it on Night Attack last night. And I'm talking about it here. But here's where I think it really belongs. Since we last spoke, James Gunn, director and writer of Guardians of the Galaxy, both 1 and 2, was fired from Guardians of the Galaxy 3. This is ostensibly because of some very old, offensive tweets. Tweets that include jokes about, but not limited to, pedophilia, rape, and AIDS. I don't know if anybody would seriously talk about defending the content of the tweets. Most of the reaction has been about whether or not somebody is allowed to have bad art in their past and whether or not they are allowed to grow as people and not with 24 hours worth of buildup, be fired from their dream job. I will admit that on Friday, if you follow me on Twitter at Justin R. Young, that I got in my feelings about this story. Mostly because I've been living my life mostly in public on the internet for the past 12 years. Long as Twitter's been around, I've been entering dumb thoughts into it. And I've had a podcast for much of that as well. A lot of that time, I've tried to be funny. And many of those moments where I was trying to be funny, I was trying to emulate some of my heroes. Many of the heroes that I have comedically are ones that push the limits, are provocative by way of speech. There is no doubt in my mind that I have failed at that quite a bit. And so when I read James Gunn's tweets, I couldn't help but apply myself to them. And that's where I kind of want our moral discussion on this to end. Because I very genuinely don't believe this is a moral conversation on whether or not James Gunn's tweets are offensive or not. I believe that this is a political conversation. James Gunn did not get fired because he said awful shit on Twitter a long time ago. James Gunn got fired because he talked crazy shit about Donald Trump. And I don't say that as a conspiracy. I say that as a verifiable fact. James Gunn is a victim of the culture war. There are fans of the president that believe that there is an uneven playing field, that conservatives are routinely stripped of their platforms or harassed by way of organized campaigns to silence their voices. To that they point to Roseanne, Milo, I can't pronounce his last name, Laura Ingraham, Bill O'Reilly, Sean Hannity. People for whom have been either targeted by way of their advertisers or targeted by way of their publishers to strip them of their platform. Now, this is a I have a machine gun, ho, ho, ho situation. They want to make it hurt for the other side. They want to make it hurt for people for whom are politically, they find unfair to their point of view. This has happened now twice since our last episode. James Gunn was actually fired by Disney, the same company that fired Roseanne, parent company. Dan Harmon, he of Community and currently Rick and Morty, the same Rick and Morty that just received a multi-season order from Adult Swim, a.k.a. Warner Brothers Media. James Gunn was fired. Dan Harmon had to release a statement, and Adult Swim stood by him. Dan Harmon's old art was a video from the same year that Community launched, wherein he parodies Dexter, a show where a murderer is the sympathetic protagonist, in a show, sketch called Daryl, where he plays a sympathetic protagonist that is a child molester. More so, a baby molester. You see Dan Harmon's bare ass as he humps a baby doll. I will say, in my personal opinion, that both the Gunn tweets and I would say even more pointed, the Dan Harmon video ages exceptionally poorly. It's bad. Really bad. Super awful. The kind of things that you would expect men that are in higher positions that have evolved past that kind of humor specifically based on their current output would have deleted. And by the way, they did in both cases. These were squirreled away by other people on the internet and then resurfaced for these coordinated pushes. Usually from 4chan, and Mike Cernovich has kind of gotten the cred for these scalps being taken by the right. I will say that I think this is gross. I was made queasy by some of the ad brigading of right-wing sources. I don't think that these people are viewers of those shows. I don't think that they are representative of the target demographic, and I think that it just feels weird to me. I am also very, very, very sickened by old stuff that was deleted coming back to haunt these people. But ultimately, this isn't about what they wrote. And it's not really about what Laura Ingraham or Sean Hannity says. It's about the fact that we are in a culture war. And we are in the execution of hostages phase of that war. the I don't know where this ends, but I do know this, that if this is the new normal, if this is the new standard, it goes to an ugly place from here when you draw it out on a longer timeline. And I mean that for both sides. Because once you legitimize that we don't actually have a standard of what we care about, we just want to inflict pain on the other side, it really becomes about ideological purity. Who supports the right people the most? And once you've cut down the easy, low-hanging fruit on the other side, guess where that cannon starts to point? Inside. This will become self-destructive. This is not a way that you build a platform. This is not a way that you attract people to your side. And no matter how lopsided you think the playing field is, boy, is it dangerous to act like this is something that needs to be employed. But, hell, what do I know? Short of getting banned on Patreon, I don't know what anybody could do to me. You know, unless I got a job somewhere else. And in that case, well, wow. Wow, I'm fucked in a major way. But, I mean, hell, if I got a job and then got fired, I know what I'd do. I'd take that first paycheck. I'd probably head out to relax. Yeah. I'd probably go ahead and just break down a $100 bill into some ones and head on down to the...
Get on the floor if you got that booty.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is a Quinnipiac poll for the generic congressional ballot. Taken from July 18th to July 23rd, a sample of 1,177 registered voters. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome first to the stage. They're swinging a big old trunk, and they never forget. Please give a big old round of applause for the 39% vote getters. It is the Republican Party! But your headliners, with 51% of the vote, they have that big old donkey ass. Yes, it is the Democrats. Folks, that is the Republicans with 39% and the Democrats with 51%. That is a 12-point spread. All right. That is a 12-point spread. The first time that the generic ballot has gotten over double digits in a little bit now. If we go ahead and take a look at the Real Clear Politics site on the generic ballot, leaning back to earlier this month, we're looking at 7, 8, 9, 6, 7, 7. And even one after this, the Economist YouGov poll has it at +6. So this is an outlier, the Quinnipiac poll, at +12. But it's the first time that we've seen a double-digit one in a little bit. All right, let's go ahead and get into But Your Emails. You can email this show, theyoungamerican@gmail.com. Again, theyoungamerican@gmail.com. Sistro writes, I agree that it is totally shitty that James Gunn lost his job over BS jokes that he made 10 years ago. It sucks, but this is the world we live in. I'm a lifetime Republican, and this kind of deplatforming bullshit hits people on my side all the time. I think it's crap, and I'm opposed to it, but the left wing will eviscerate a conservative on the thinnest of pretenses. If we want to end this BS, we have to make it hurt for the leftists as well. Again, I'm opposed to these kind of tactics, but James Gunn had no problem using these tactics against conservatives he opposed. I hope that the left learns that these tactics can hurt them as well, and they back off. Since they won't, no matter how unpleasant it is, they must be made to play by the same rules. Once both sides understand that they are vulnerable, the left will back off, and if they don't, the right shouldn't either. In closing, these tactics suck, and to quote you, are gross, but if one side keeps using them, then the other choice has no choice but to use them back. I disagree, but we already went over this. Andrew, talking about Hillary running again in 2020, which, by the way, Hillary housecoat. Google it. Andrew writes, no, just no. Many of my fellow Democrats have been taken in by an illusion that Hillary Clinton was ever a viable candidate. She was not. Back at the very beginning of the 2016 primaries, we could feel it. That tickle in the back of our minds, the concern that Hillary Clinton was the only actual Democratic candidate, and that certainly in our hearts that she couldn't beat Rubio or Jeb or maybe even Ted freaking Cruz. Because fairly or not, Hillary Clinton is one of the most hated people in America. Then along comes the Donald, a man so synonymous with everything that Americans hate about ourselves, it's literally a cliche, and we let ourselves get lulled into a false sense of security. Look where that got us. The Democratic Party fucked itself by following Best Director Oscar rules for picking a candidate rather than looking at the actual person most likely to put butts in booths. If they make that mistake again, I'll watch out for the Dem socks, the Democratic Socialists, to put them out to pasture with the Whigs. Christopher writes, the fact that you felt that this would be another... this is... my take last week about how I was not particularly surprised by how Donald Trump reacted at the Helsinki summit. The fact that you felt this would be another case of water off a duck's back suggests that you might not have fully absorbed how different the situation with Putin is than other dictators like Kim. Trump certainly did say various nice things about Kim that his supporters ignored, but the key difference is that Trump and his administration aren't facing multiple investigations and accusations of collusion with North Korea. Remember how testily Trump reacted to being called Putin's puppet in the debates with Hillary? It's clear that is a narrative that rubs his ego the wrong way, and in almost every other comparable situation has led to Trump opportunistically rounding his ally. Remember how quickly Bannon was dropped and Trump started to slam him after he got too big for his boots. Bannon arguably had a much stronger connection with Trump's base than Putin, but Trump has consistently remained tight-lipped in his criticism of Putin. What's more, this is one of the few positions that Trump remained almost rock solid on, even when he was drawing heavy fire during his campaign. Well, we've kind of seen that erode a little bit this week. Not only did he roll back on his Helsinki comments, but he's continued to at least posture in the most Trumpian way possible that he is tough on Russia. Tweeted out fairly comically that Russia would be very, very in favor of the Democrats in the midterms with little or no proof. And then there was the report today that the White House is preparing a formal statement that they will never recognize Crimea as part of Russia. So that is, I think he knows he fucked up, that he let his ego get in the way and his hatred of the press get in the way of not looking like a little bitch in front of Putin. And that's something that even his base finds a distaste for. Like they're on his side, that they don't think he had help winning, right? Or that it mattered if Russia meddled. But also, don't fucking bend over and spread like you did up on stage. Like, come on. You should act like a man. What's the matter with you? And finally, Tom writes, one last time, it is nuclear, not nuclear. Please make it stop. I will do my best, but I make no guarantees.
Politics, 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 politics.
Ladies and gentlemen, that about brings us to the end of this program. A reminder, if you want to email the show, theyoungamerican@gmail.com. Music has been provided by Valesco and Trop Killers. Follow me at Justin R. Young on Twitter, Snapchat, and Instagram. TakePoliticsSeriously.com if you want to support the show. Folks, a reminder. Some shows talk about politics. Some shows talk about politics. And I saw another one last week that was talking about politics. But this is the only show that talks about all three. I will see you folks next week.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.